Well, the 3% increase in exports was quite dismaying, and that did indicate there's a lot of weakness in the supply chain. As I said, I'm not so certain that that's going to continue going forward, because as things open up in certain parts of the country and they continue to have closed loop manufacturing, I think they can move goods abroad. And part of that weakness in the exports may well have been on the demand side, not on the production side. As I said, inflation data is a function of partly of commodity prices and partly of the inability to move goods around. And if the supply chain issue is relaxed a bit, then that's not going to be their prime worry. The real worry is growth drivers. I mean, they've essentially are running out of growth drivers. They're not doing the massive stimulus that people had expected. They're very concerned about a debt bubble, and they're sticking with that, and they're still locking down the property market to a great degree. But they have nothing to replace that, particularly with the attacks on the tech sector. So, inflation is part of the story, but the bigger story is the lack of growth driver going forward.
What impact would there be on exports, Andrew, if some of the Trump-era tariffs were indeed lifted? And would there also be a market impact?
My understanding of that is that the Trump-era tariffs we know they had a pretty modest impact on China's exports. In fact, China's exports soared essentially during much of the Trump administration. So I think removing them is not going to have a major effect. The one area I'm looking at is, obviously the talk about the Foreign Company Holdings Act and whether they are able to come to a deal on accounting practices between the two countries, and what does that mean for the tech sector in China. I'm not optimistic about that because I think there's too much concern in China about revealing data. And whatever agreement they come to is either going to be ineffective or will be short-lived. But in terms of the overall relations, exports has not been a big problem for China up until the latest data.